A United Nations report says countries need to cut their emissions by 5 times their current levels to bring the temperature rise down to those decided on in the Paris Climate Agreement. The report presents the latest data if the world was to meet planned targets by 2030. We're joined now by Heather Alborough, an expert on environmental politics from Nottingham Trent University in the UK. Good morning, thank you for your time. That is a very stark change. They're saying, let me just check here, the United Nations says they need to cut their emissions by 5 times. What steps are needed for countries to try and make those targets?
So we've had over 2 decades already of climate talks and accords, and we've seen, very little progress. In fact, emissions have only continued to grow during this time period. So fundamental, if you look at the terminology that's used in the latest IPCC report and a lot of the recent information that's come out, you need fundamental structural transformation. This is a complete revolution in terms of our entire global economy, the ways that we produce energy, even everything we eat in terms of diet, because a significant portion of these emissions come from the agricultural sector. So we're talking about fundamental structural transformations some have framed it at the level of mobilizations required for World War II.
Okay, so let's be realistic. Does that look like it's going to happen?
At the moment, so if you look at the G20 countries, for instance, they account for 78% of global emissions, and only the EU, the UK, France, and I believe it's Italy have set any kind of concrete plans for net zero emissions at the moment. And with large global players like the US, the most significant historical contributor to global climate change, backing out, and China dragging its feet as well, and looking at the situation in Brazil with mass deforestation under the Jair Bolsonaro regime. It's looking increasingly much more difficult, and with every delay every year that we don't actually act, changes.
You're saying more difficult. Does that mean impossible or just difficult?
Not impossible, no. There is always hope, and while we have lost crucial time, there is still time to turn around. There is time to meet at least the 1.5 target. Increasingly, very difficult, but we can do it. It would take massive mobilization on a global level, not only cooperation with governments, but with social movement activity like Extinction Rebellion.